Hey everybody, we're going to talk today a little bit about tuning with the pegs and some things to look out for and things to consider when you start tuning with the pegs if you've never done it before. So hopefully if you're watching this video, one of the prerequisites is that you've used your fine tuners before. On my instrument I only have one on the E string, but sometimes you'll have 4 fine tuners, which is really handy when you're just learning how to tune. Those pose a less of a significant risk of breaking your string than using the pegs. So we're going to talk about tuning with the pegs. It's really important to understand at first how the pegs work. Traditional pegs on violin, viola, cello are what we call friction pegs. In order to get good friction, obviously, it's very important that the pegs are fit correctly. On less expensive instruments, there may be some voids and there may be some inaccuracies in how the pegs were fit, and that's why continuously those are a problem. You find that a lot on some of the less expensive, cheaper instruments. On a better instrument, the pegs are fitted. It's a very precise process to get those pegs to fit exactly right. The wood is angled and everything has to be just perfect. So it is very important to be careful on how you turn the pegs so that we don't break strings, because if you turn the pegs too fast, too much, your string will break, I guarantee. When you're using a fine tuner, you would have to turn it a lot of times for it to break, but with the friction pegs, a little goes a long way, and I mean that very much so. So I'm just going to turn myself a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm doing, but it's really important to understand how much I'm turning this peg. I'm going to get even closer so you can see. When I turn this peg just a little bit, you can barely see me turning the peg, but I'm turning it fractions of an inch. And it's very important that you don't turn a peg without listening to your string. So if you do that, you're not going to realize how far you're tuning it. You don't want to go too far beyond the tuning pitch or beyond it at all. You want to come up to the pitch. So if I turn on my tuner, there's my A. That sounds pretty good. Now, if I want to tune that A, I can be real careful and I can bring it down below the pitch. There it is. Now, I'm holding it so you can see what I'm doing. Normally when I'm tuning my pegs, I'm actually holding the instrument facing me this way, and if I'm tuning the pegs on this side, I'm plucking the instrument with my thumb of the other hand. Okay, and then when I go ahead to do the D string, there it is. When I go to tune the D string, I'm going to dip below. Look how much I'm tuning, or very little. Now, what might happen to you is if the peg is not fit properly, or if it's just loose, or sometimes not exact, you're going to find that your peg will drop and it'll just fall. So remember that because these are friction pegs, we have to, if we're tuning this one, we have to push in and turn. Push in and turn at the same time. The same would go for this way. We're pushing in and turning, making that. So if you think about a screw mechanism, how it's the threads wind up the screw, we got to think about having screw threads on our pegs as well. Because if we just turn it and push it in, it's not going to stay. You can actually damage your pegs that way. So we want to push and turn at the same time. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Pushing in and turning at the same time. I'm holding the instrument by the body, and it's actually facing me like so. And I can push and turn gently and carefully, slowly, but I'm also listening to make sure that I don't go beyond that D pitch. So there's our G. Okay, and the same thing would be true. I'm going to go, if I'm not sure, I'm going to dip below and then come back up. Too high. And it may take you a couple times to go dip below the pitch and come back up to it. But that's essentially how we're going to tune. With the cello, it's a larger process. You're holding that instrument in front of you like so, and having to steady it. And that's pretty much how you're going to work with your pegs. So be careful, go slow, make sure you're plucking constantly while you're tuning your pegs. Okay, and now the next step would be to, if you get comfortable, I think it's easier to get the force needed to push your pegs in when you're sitting down and plucking, holding it next to you. Obviously, the more accurate way and the better way is going to be using your bow. So if I pull up my A, if I can find it here, there's my A. If I pull up and I'm using my bow, I can drop below and pull up. The problem comes when you're doing it up on your shoulder is how do I push in to be able to make it hold? So there's several ways. Obviously, one is to take another finger and pull it around the side, and that's what I'm doing with my my middle finger there. I'll put the tuner back on. Okay, and then when we get good enough and we can tune in fifths, but again, it's going to take some dipping below the pitch and back up, below and back up to get it to be perfect. And then the A and E, I guess we have the fine tuner on the E string, so we should be good to go. Basic introduction on using your pegs. Hopefully that'll be helpful. Be careful, don't break any strings. We'll see you next time.